Hello there, my name is Makan. I'm a 3D artist and 2D artist, been working in art and computer graphics for about 15 years now. Recently I started making my own tools using vibe coding with the help of AI, things that were almost never possible for an artist to create before. In this video tutorial, I'm going to introduce my latest work, Rogue AI Assistant plus MCP, and show you how to use it in Blender. So sit back, relax, grab some tea, coffee, beer, whatever you like, and enjoy the video. This time I actually wrote a script and made a presentation to make the video's quality much better. I even had AI help me clean up the grammar a bit. I've been doing art and computer graphics for about 15 years, 3D, 2D, the whole thing. Recently I discovered vibe coding and started making my own tools with AI. Things I always wished existed but never had the coding skills to build myself. That's how this add-on was born. So what is Rogue AI Assistant plus MCP? In short, it lets you use AI directly in Blender. It can automate and create anything Blender's API allows of models, geometry nodes, rigging, animation, scattering, object selection, renaming, grouping, materials, compositing, video editing, camera tracking, grease pencil drawing and animation, and more. The stronger the AI model, the better job it can do. By the way, MCP means Model Context Protocol, bit of a mouthful. It's an open standard created by Anthropic. It facilitates the integration and sharing of data between artificial intelligence systems and external tools or data sources. The add-on has three parts: Cloud AI with API, Local AI using LM Studio, and MCP with Claude models. I'll explain each one step by step, starting with the setup. So let me show you how to use it. First, you need to download it from my itch.io page, for free. You're welcome. Once you download the add-on, put it somewhere you'll remember. Then open Blender, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and click Install, or just drag and drop it into the viewport, that works too. Then enable the Rogue AI Assistant add-on. Congratulations, you're almost done. Now the only thing left is choosing which AI workflow you want to use. Before I explain how to set up your AI in the add-on and walk through the three methods, let me first explain the whole add-ons tab. The first part of the add-on is about me, where you can find me, hopefully support me, follow me, enjoy my cat's tweets, and sometimes some attractive paintings by epic artists. Mostly game dev and game news stuff there. I digress, sorry. The Preferences section, you have the option to select your provider there. I've added quite a lot, the famous ones for Cloud AI with API. You can also choose a custom provider. In that panel, all you need to add is the API URL, your max tokens, and the API key, same place you add it in API configuration. Now let's go to the API configuration panel. When you select your provider, the add-on automatically fills in the API base URL for you. I like open code Zen models, but you can add anything you want. Since I'm a free user, I couldn't test the paid AI models, but I did test a few and they worked for me. The one I use most frequently is Open Code Zen, works just fine. About the API key, you need to create that from your AI model's website, that's not up to me. You'll have to figure that part out yourself. And remember, don't share your API key with anyone. Once you get your API key, you can click Fetch Available Models and from there select your AI model. Leave those checkboxes on. Add your max tokens if you know what to set it to, if not, just leave it alone. Reasoning effort is important, put it at high or max, because you want your AI model to think as much as it can. Making stuff in Blender isn't easy. You can play with custom prompts, but I personally didn't bother with it. Now about the local AI part, you just click the button, and it will enable the connection to LM Studio and your local AI. In the LM Studio server section, you can see if it's working when you start talking to it from the add-on. If you have a powerful graphics card, it actually works pretty well. If not, you can't do much with it. The network and logging section. The network part is important. If you're using a proxy, add your proxy there. If you're not using one, just put none. I personally use a proxy from my phone, so I needed this feature. The logging is just for catching bugs during the development. Don't bother with it unless you want to report some bugs to me. We have another logging section in the viewport panel too. I use that one myself. That's pretty much everything about Rogue AI Assistant plus MCP in the Add-ons tab. Now let's go to the Viewport tab and I'll show you how to use the add-on there. There are 3 sections, which I'll explain one by one. First is the Rogue AI Assistant section. There's the chat window, the read guide, the session management, and the message box with inspect scene, build and plan modes. The session section works like chatting with any AI model or IDE. But here you can do more, start a new session, edit it, clear it, delete it, and work with several sessions at once. I added the reasoning effort here too. It also exists in the chat box panel. That empty box is where you can quickly send messages without opening the chat window. You can clear your message there too, and there's a paste from clipboard button so you can paste prompts you've copied from elsewhere. The eyedropper lets you manually tell the AI to read your scene and the changes you made. It checks automatically, but if you want to make sure it sees your changes, you can update the scene with that. It's called Inspect Scene. Then there's the Send button, which is obvious, and the Build and Plan modes. With Build mode, the AI starts executing your commands. With Plan mode, you plan stuff first, and based on what you said, it prepares to execute when you switch to Build mode. The Open Chat window panel has some quick shortcuts that'll make your job faster and easier. Enable local AI, clear the message, set the reasoning effort, select Build or Plan mode, and there's a paste from clipboard button too. At the bottom you have the Inspect Scene button and the Send button. When you start sending messages, you can also copy, paste, and edit them. The MCP section is a bit different. You need to create some links and establish connections before it works. First, start the local server. Then, open CMD, hit Start plus R, type CMD, and hit Enter. Copy one of the tunnel provider commands, paste it into CMD, and hit Enter. You'll get a link. Some tunnel providers need installation, registration, or payment for the best quality and a stable link. The first one is free, but it's not stable. It'll stop working with MCP eventually, sadly. Then you need to go to Anthropic's website and create a connector. There's a section called Customize where you set up the connection. I took screenshots, so no worries. Once that's done, you can talk to Claude's AI chat models, and it can read your Blender scene and make changes. I even added a guide for that too. The settings section is pretty self-explanatory, not much to say there. You don't have to bother with it unless you want to check out my page, report bugs, or follow me. If you do find a bug, look into the logging section and send me the log. It helps a lot. Alright, that's pretty much everything with the add-on. Now let me show you some real examples. I'll type prompts into the add-on and show the results in real time. I picked 4 examples to show different features: modeling, geometry nodes, materials with compositing, and a full low-poly scene build. The thing is, the AI can start a good base, but the user needs to finish it. It's also pretty good for sorting and organizing your hierarchy. You don't have to just use AI to model stuff. You can even use it to make scripts and execute them for you, and save them as actions for your project. I recommend starting in Plan mode first to see what the AI plans to do, then switching to Build mode to execute. That way you can review before anything happens. For the first example, let's create something from scratch, a sci-fi scene with a pedestal and a floating crystal. Here's the prompt I'm typing: delete the default cube first. Then create a sci-fi scene with a cylindrical pedestal that has beveled edges and inset panels. On top of it, place a floating diamond-shaped crystal that rotates slowly. Add a point light inside the crystal that emits blue light. Name the pedestal and the crystal. As you can see, the AI created the pedestal with beveled edges and inset panels. placed the crystal on top with a slow rotation animation, and added the blue point light inside. All from one prompt. You can then tweak it manually, adjust the bevel, change the light color, whatever you want. For the second example, let's try geometry nodes. This is where it gets really interesting. Here's the prompt: delete the default queue. Add a plane and call it particle field. Add a geometry nodes modifier to it. In the node setup, use a distribute points on faces node, then instance small ICO spheres on each point. Randomize the scale between 0.02 and 0.08. And offset the Z position using a noise texture so they float at different heights. Make about 500 points. Give all instances a dark metallic material. And there it is, a procedural particle field created entirely through a text prompt. The geometry nodes are all set up with distribute points on faces, instance scaling, and noise-based Z offset. You can go into the modifier and tweak any parameter you want after that. For the third example, let's do materials and compositor nodes. This shows how the AI can handle the full pipeline from object to final look. Here's the prompt: delete the default queue. Create a torus knot object. Give it a dark glossy material with emissive neon pink edges using a layer weight node to drive emission color. Then set up the compositor with a glare node set to fog glow and a lens distortion node with slight chromatic aberration. Render it in EV with bloom enabled. Look at that, neon pink glowing edges on a dark glossy torus knot, with fog glow and chromatic aberration in the compositor. And it switched EV bloom on for us too. All from one prompt. For the fourth and final example, let's go all out, a full low-poly fantasy scene. This one shows the AI building an entire environment in one shot. Here's the prompt: delete the default queue. Create a low-poly fantasy night scene. Add a small wooden cabin on slightly raised ground with a glowing warm light coming from inside. In front of the cabin, place a campfire made of a few dark rocks in a circle with small flame objects inside. Add 3 or 4 low-poly humanoid figures sitting around the campfire on logs, facing the fire. Place a small river running beside the cabin, made with a flat blue plane. Add several low-poly trees around the scene, tall conifer trees and a few shorter round ones. Set the world background to a dark night sky. Add a moonlight from above with a soft blue tint. Use flat shading and simple solid colors for everything to keep the low-poly style. And just like that, a complete low-poly fantasy scene. Cabin with warm interior light, campfire with people sitting around it, a river, trees, night sky with moonlight. All from one prompt. The AI even set up flat shading to keep that low-poly look. Of course you'd want to go in and refine things, adjust positions, tweak colors, maybe add more details. But the base is there. So those are 4 examples showing different capabilities of the add-on, modeling, geometry nodes, materials with compositing, and building a full scene. Each one was just a single prompt. Of course, in a real workflow you'd iterate, send follow-up messages to adjust things, refine the materials, tweak the geometry. The AI remembers your session context, so you can say things like make the crystal bigger or change the particle count to 1000 and it will understand. Feel free to pause the video and try these prompts yourself, or come up with your own. That's the fun part. That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial and found my work useful. Let me know if the add-on helped you, and show me what you made with it. Cheers and bye!